A couple, I think I'll do these first. From the Orange Vomit, Trump is really, seriously, I mean, it's one thing to talk in terms that Trump is losing his mind. It's something else, again, to see irrefutable proof that this son of a bitch is going crazy. I mean, really. And, you know, it happens at his age, after all the paranoia that he has dealt with through his entire life, but especially in the past decade. He is losing his mind completely. And the problem with that is it just may result in death and violence for the rest of us that we have to either witness or in some horrible way experience firsthand. In fact, Trump is now warning of death and destruction if he is charged with crimes anywhere, even though this rotten bastard has been a criminal his entire life. He was a criminal when he was inside his mother's womb. But he's now warning of death and destruction. He put a post up on his Truth Social toy network. And in that post, he once again attacked the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, for maybe, potentially, possibly charging him with crimes due to his hush money payments to Stormy Daniels. Now, much of the Orange Bastard's complaint about Bragg is nothing more than a rehash of what he's been saying. This time, he added that the prospect of violence is very real. And this was Trump's way, just like, I don't know, like any third-rate gangster, it's his way of trying to dissuade DA Alvin Bragg from filing charges. Yeah, that'll work, you stupid bastard. But this is what Trump posted. I'll quote it for you directly. What kind of person can charge another person, in this case, a former president of the United States, who got more votes than any sitting president in history and leading candidate by far for the Republican Party nomination, with a crime when it is known by all that no crime has been committed, and also known that potential death and destruction in such a false charge could be catastrophic for our country? Why and who would do such a thing? Only a degenerate psychopath that truly hates the USA. End quote. I mean, this is the kind of shit. Does that sound to you like something that should come from a former president of the United States? Of course not. Now, his niece, Mary Trump, who is a clinical psychologist, is getting extremely worried about what she's observing in this crazy bastard. She's especially concerned, apparently, about one of these rallies of white racist maggot Nazis scheduled for tomorrow, Saturday, in Waco, Texas, for God's sake. You remember Waco? Remember 30 years ago what happened there? The federal raid on the Branch Davidian compound killed dozens of people. A complete fuck up by the U.S. government. I mean, let's face it, it was horrifying. But anyway, this is the Orange Vomit's first campaign rally in the 2024 presidential election. And of course, it comes at a time when this orange bastard is facing four criminal investigations. There's the one in Manhattan, of course, and the one here in Atlanta. Anyway, Mary Trump tweeted yesterday, quote, "Donald has a rally in Waco this Saturday. It's a ploy to remind his cult of the infamous Waco siege of 1993, where an anti-government cult battled the FBI. Scores of people died. He wants the same violent chaos to rescue him from justice." End quote. Mary Trump. Let me repeat that again. You know, she's saying, and she should know, that this crazy bastard wants the same kind of violence and death and destruction to recur in Waco, to try to rescue him from justice. Kind of like the recent Murdaugh murder trial in South Carolina, where that crazy son of a bitch who has been sentenced to life in prison now murdered his wife and youngest son in order to gain sympathy. This is what happens when your brain turns to shit. I mean, literally, and that's what we're dealing with Trump. But anyway, Mary Trump has a plan to thwart this bastard. She's urging people to reserve free tickets for the event online. The tickets are free, but you have to have one. She tweeted this, quote, "If we book the 50,000 plus venue," that's how big it is, "we can make sure most of the seats are empty when the traitor takes the stage." Woo. She adds, quote, "We can no longer fail to hold powerful men accountable for their crimes against our country. Let's fill this venue with empty seats," end quote. Yeah, now this has been done before. You'll remember when a couple of young guys who, I forget their names in the organization, but they pulled it off, where they booked all kinds of seats to a Trump hate rally, and as a result, very few people showed up. Actually were there. Now, a spokesperson for Trump told the Houston Chronicle that no, Waco was selected because the city is centrally located. Centrally located to what? Okay. And not for the symbolic value of what happened there. The spokesfreak for Trump said, quote, "This is the ideal location to have as many supporters from across the state and in neighboring states attend this historic rally." And then this jackoff added this, quote, "It also happens to be the home of the Baylor Bears, one of the most prestigious higher education institutions in America," unquote. As if. I mean, what the hell does Trump know or care about institutions of higher education? Come on, Trump spokesgeek, you're so goddamn phony. And then Keith Olbermann on his podcast. And by the way, when MSNBC got rid of Keith Olbermann, it was one of, in my opinion, the biggest mistakes that MSNBC ever made. Olbermann was a great political commentator on that network every night. Now, I'm not begrudging the fact that he was replaced with Rachel Maddow. I think Rachel Maddow, who I used to work with at Air America, I think she's a wonderful, articulate, politically astute, brilliant commentator. There's no question my respect for Rachel Maddow. But they should have found another place to put Keith Olbermann. Okay, enough. Olbermann, on Thursday, he has a podcast called Countdown, which was the name of his program on MSNBC. You might want to check that out, Countdown. But he unloaded on the orange vomit on last night's podcast over these comments directed, by the orange vomit at Alvin Bragg, among others. In a Twitter thread, Olbermann said Trump was, quote, channeling January 6th again, end quote. And this is after the orange vomit called Alvin Bragg, quote, a Soros-backed animal, end quote. And there's also a photo of Trump holding a baseball bat next to a photo of Alvin Bragg in another post. Olbermann said, quote, he's trying to get this man killed, end quote. Now, of course, that Bragg is investigating and hopefully will indict this pig. Trump, in an all-caps post, called the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg. This is why Olbermann responded, quote, George Soros-backed animal who just doesn't care about right or wrong, no matter how many people are hurt. This is no legal system. This is the Gestapo. This is Russia and China, but worse. Disgraceful. This is the Gestapo, but worse. That's what he's calling the Manhattan District Attorney. This fascist scum, Donald Trump. And in a separate post, he took the orange vomit, he took aim at all the people investigating him, including the special counsel now from the Justice Department, Jack Smith. And he called Jack Smith, quote, a radical lunatic bomb thrower, end quote. You see how crazy this is becoming? This is what he said about Jack Smith, quote, District Attorney Bragg is a danger to our country and should be removed immediately, along with radical lunatic bomb thrower Jack Smith, who is harassing and intimidating innocent people at levels not seen before. Get Trump Letitia James, the worst Attorney General in the United States, and Atlanta DA Fani Willis, who's trying to make perfect phone calls into a plot to destroy America, but reigns over the most violent crime scene in America and does nothing about it, end quote. And Olbermann is saying that authorities should arrest this son of a bitch over his terroristic statements, which I fully agree with. Olbermann tweeted this, quote, Trump has today issued repeated stochastic terrorist calls for his cult to remove the animal Alvin Bragg and use a baseball bat. The Justice Department needs to arrest him today. No perp walk, no bail. He's trying to get this man killed. Period. Enough. No shit. How much longer? And as far as how much longer, I am so discouraged in the Attorney General of this country, who was slotted to become a Supreme Court justice. But it's just incredible how the Justice Department, more than 2 years after this attempt to overthrow the government of the United States, other than appoint recently a special counsel, the U.S. Attorney General has done nothing about a full frontal assault on this country. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.